I'm a professional artist working from my studio in Essex in the UK and painting plein air in the countryside. Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube art tutorial channel. Well, hi everyone. Today on my YouTube channel I'm going to demonstrate an autumn woodland landscape. Well, I was inspired mainly when I did a demonstration, which that one is, to a local art group. So today I decided to work in the studio, produce a small version of another autumn landscape. It's on the screen there, and I'll just lead you through the basic composition. Not dissimilar to that one, but we've got silver birch trees this side, very dark trees this side. We have light more or less coming from the left really, and it's a typical autumn light that is not that strong sometimes, but it's enough to create a lovely shadow across this foreground. Very light sky. There appears to be lots of detail, but of course as an artist we must simplify what we see, because if we start trying to paint all those leaf-like images in the distance, it will all get very, very complicated. We want the background and the distance to be wet into wet, the middle distance to have a little bit of strength of colour plus a hinting at detail. Then the foreground, although we're only going to give an artist's impression of leaf work, it will be much bolder, much stronger in colours and shapes. So I hope you enjoy watching. Well, I'm working in the studio this morning and just doing a little rerun of a demo that I'm going to produce to a local art group, well, fairly local, and it's an autumn landscape. So I'm just doing a quick rerun. I've produced the drawing, as you can see. I've established the distance area. I've established some of the greenery and autumn areas in the background. Two large silver birch and some sort of fern-like shapes in the foreground. Overhanging branches will come in at a later date. Now I've poured water into a little container. I've only got a small mop brush, nothing too large. I think I can work with that. And I'm going to put a little bit of blue sky in. Well, that's going to be ultramarine. I don't want to be too dark with this, and I'm going to use that to actually damp the paper. The light will be coming from the left hand side, so it's always a good idea putting a bit of red in there now, just to try and get a little bit of warmth as I head down and across. But as you can see, not a great deal of colour in the sky at all. Just adding more and more red as I'm coming through. Then I'm going to add some yellow, because that will give me a little glow from this right hand side, which is sometimes quite important. It's a little stronger glow. It won't be too heavy with that glow, to be fair, but that's about right. That's nice. And we pull that through and along to there. There we go. Right, now this area I want to remain white paper at the moment, and while that's still damp at the top, I'm going to clean the brush a touch and put in some sort of raw sienna touches just before it dries, because I want to try and get the feel of lovely bright autumn overhanging leafing coming in at the top, and that's pretty good for the the colour I'm looking for. Not putting any green with that at the moment. No. A little bit of brown perhaps. Let some burnt umber going in, just to help that sort of darken a touch here and there. Don't be too dark at this stage anyway. Good. Now this central area is quite light, but I can see a glow of colour, which is a blue tone. So I'm putting blue with the raw sienna. Quite a lot of blue to start, exactly in that area there. See that burst up? That's what I'm looking to produce. There you go. Now I'm cleaning the brush thoroughly, and I'm going to use raw sienna with a touch of burnt umber, and I'm now going to put this area in there, a little darker area in there, and just pull that towards that damp area, because that'll give the impression of trees in the distance. Now to that I'm going to add a little blue. I'm going to use the cadmium yellow as well for this, because I want that to be nice and, you know, it's got to be there, but it mustn't be too pronounced. One or two little touches here and there, just as the brush goes down like that. There we are. Tease the colour onto the paper. You know, you introduce it to the paper rather than forcing the paper to have it, if you know what I mean. A little bit of blue now. I want that to be just a little sort of distant there at that point. Then all we've got to do now is come forward with this. Let's use lemon yellow this time. A bit of yellow lemon there. Lemon yellow, sorry. That's what we're looking to use. And even a tad more just to get the glow there. I want that lovely autumn glow, that lovely raw glow that you get this time of year. Here is going to be raw sienna, fairly dense, like that. And I'm putting a bit of that in there and just letting that bleed down. I like the idea of that. Yeah, that's okay. That's looking good. Now, blue and lemon yellow for this area here, overhanging sort of branches and bits and bobs going on. That's it. And a bit more stronger green here to the right. Occasionally you do get splashes of green colour, quite often in fact in between the autumn tones, and while it's still damp I'm going up higher with that because I want that to show in between. Yeah, let's put a little bit up there, a little bit more of this darker tone, because we've got lots of overhanging branches that I want to blur out. I don't want that to be too distant in colour, but I want it to, the other hand, it's not too strong. Can you see it's all going lovely and blurred? Right, as we come into the foreground, I'm going to use a yellow. Don't normally, but this is my mixing palette, and sorry, it's a green. This is my normal mixing palette, and some lovely, some greens in the palette. So a bit of blue with that, a bit of raw sienna, just to ring the changes, just to deepen that green a touch. It's all delicate tones. I'm going over the silver birch just purely to try and keep that continuity, and then we'll lift off the colour later. Right, now we go into the foreground. I'm using the green and I'm going to use the blue. So that's the sap green and the blue, and that's ultramarine, and we're just creeping that in there. Oh, and there is just some green touches there. There we go. And that then goes around the corner up the other end, where the track is. Quite a bit of blue now and a little bit more of that red, because I want this to be darker in touches in places. It's quite a dark area too coming over here. The real dark tones I'll put in later, but this is purely there we go, purely a first sort of wash of colour that's going on. Yep, that's looking good. Gradually bring that down. Just going to use a bit of this just before it dries up into that top area there, just to try and get a sense of some overhanging branches. Just beginning to dry, but that's fine. Right, clean the brush. Now we want the raw sienna to take over the sort of autumn leafing that we can see. I'm not touching that area just yet, although I am here because I want that to blend, and I am there. Now I will here now, because it seemed to work that side, so let's pull that through. A little stronger there, and this is pretty much the first washes of this lovely autumn landscape, woodland landscape, that is Galleywood Common, not too far from my where I live. And I'm putting some red in that. It should give it a bit of a brown feel and a bit of warmth in the foreground there. And then finally, before I let it dry, clean the brush and put the track in so it blends. And we start off with this bluey grey, so a bit of that, a bit of blue, a bit of the crimson, a bit of blue, just to give me a grey. I'll run that through like that. Then as I come forward, I'm going to pull that into the yellow, and then adding a little more red, a little bit more blue, because it is quite a sort of a pinky track really. And then as I come forward, trying to get a bit of texture perhaps, whether that's worked or not, I'm not sure. And then I'm going in with a bit more red here and there, just to enhance the foreground feel. And that is all that's required for the first stage of this painting. Now, as you can see, I've pulled in a little closer, so you can see a little bit more of the detail of what I'm doing. I'm still using this mop brush, trying not to get it quite as damp now. You can't obviously see the colour mixing, but it's not dissimilar to what we had before. I'm using the raw sienna with, I'm going to use burnt umber. Could use burnt sienna, but unfortunately I've not got any burnt sienna in my palette. So I'm going to use the burnt umber and take a lot of moisture off of the brush so that it's not too damp, which I'm doing. Then I'm going to use the tip of the brush to indicate, I don't know, see how the brush is opened up, and I'm just going to create a bit of an overhang of sort of delicate fennel of middle distance leafing. Autumn leafing, of course, a bit denser in places. That's it. And where else have we got it there? A little touch there perhaps. That will be darker later. Little touches there. Puts in some touches there. I'm just dragging across the paper with this sort of semi-dry brush. You know, it's a good technique, used by lots of artists. I'm going to use some green in there now as well, so it's slightly on the greeny side. So just picked up some green from the palette. That's it, just to give an impression of something going on in that leafing area at the back. Just a little bit of overhanging there. Don't want to overdo this, particularly around this area. Now I'm adding burnt umber again with this to try and get some darker sort of, and a bit more burnt raw sienna as well, just to try and get some sort of darker stuff, darker leafing and autumn colours. And then we have little touches here too that cross this branch, that cross this silver birch. There we go. Now I'm going green again, so I'm picking up the ready-made green and I'm putting blue with that so that we get a darker tone, and that's got to be blended in and teased around there on the end. That's lovely. And a little bit touches there, a bit more blue going in, a little bit more green, because I want this to be heading towards the dark side, if that's sort of wording I'm looking for. Not sure that it is, but there you go. And as I say, there's lots of these lovely ferns that spray out, and if you can get that into some form of correct sort of shape, adding a bit more brown to it for this side, but basically it's a similar sort of process really. Yep, I don't want to do too much this side. Put a little bit in the background later, and yeah, a bit more burnt umber now, nice and brown and earthy. There you go, leaving plenty of those lighter edges or lighter underpainting sections, because they will benefit in the long run, benefit us immensely in the long run. That's it. Nice bit of burnt umber again, and then in the foreground just drag that burnt umber across, a bit more burnt umber, that's it, so you can just begin to get the feeling of leafing laying on the path, or yeah, running into the path as well, because it does. little touches there, and we do have little touches there just overhanging, some little touches up there too, just overhanging there. There we go. And that's the next stage. Now I've lightly damped a flat. I've damped the brush, then just taken a little moisture from the brush. Now I'm going to lift off, because this is a wood pulp paper, that gives me the opportunity to lift colour off as well as lay colour on, cleaning the brush, lightly damping, and this is where I'm going to get my silver birch shape. As you can see, as it goes up, it doesn't need to be as light, but in these lower areas, just damp and then take off the moisture from the brush, and the brush wants to lift off colour when it's damp, but when it's completely wet it wants to lay on colour. We don't need that for this passage. There you go, that's that one coming out that way. Clean the brush, moisture away, and lift off. So a brush not only applies colour, it also lifts colour away, which is something that personally I use quite a lot, this technique, purely because I'm working onto a wood pulp paper really. If you're onto any of the rag papers, then quite likely you may have a job to lift off because they stain. Now I'm also going to have a couple of smaller birch there, so I'm just using the edge of the brush for that, lifting away again where there's a dark area there, and I'm going to lift another one coming out there like that. Now these are not as distinct, so, and not as large or as wide. Remove and lift. Another couple there. May have some more later, but at this stage I'm going to leave it at that. Now these birch trees are actually they do have lots of sort of markings in the bark, and to do that I'm going to use this small, well it's not a rigger but it's a small brush, and I'm going to use burnt umber and ultramarine to get like a dark brown, almost a grey really, probably more blue than brown. Yeah, that'd be it. And what I've got to do, I've got to pick up quite often in the lower areas of these, it's just be a little darker, a bit more paint, plenty of burnt umber going in so it comes up almost black, because that's what we have here in these lower areas on these trunks. If you observe them, quite often you get an area like that too, that goes off and swings round. This one too has some dark areas right at the base, and as we go up, some other little sections of dark colour. Quite a distinctive feature of silver birch. Well, so I understand. Not an expert, but apparently bit more blue going in now to really get a deep dark feel to some of these, particularly in the lower area. And we have a funny looking branch that comes away from there. It goes up like that, then it sweeps back like that. There you go. I like that. And we then have some smaller branches that head off like this. And these are generally dark. So always worth observing how these branches form and shape. Quite often you'll see quite a lot of these branches coming away. We don't want to put them all in, but it's nice just to put some in. And then of course this one then has these distant trees have, although they're silver birch, they still have that dark area in the lower part. And then of course just try and pick up a bit more moisture, because I want to get, it's probably too much. There we go. But either way, that's the way these branches form and shoot out. Pretty much it really for that. Now I'm going to pick up the more foreground, real dark branches, and I'm actually using black and some red and a touch of blue. Try and get a real dark colour. And of course these appear very dark against that light area of background leafing. This is what I'm trying to produce, the feeling of overhanging background leafing that well, we do see quite often. Swathe of it coming down there like that. Bit more green going in just to ring the changes. A bit more red, that helps to enhance that. Bit more blue. So I'm blending and mixing as I go, and I hope that will help us to achieve the right sort of coloration, if that's the word, for these leaf areas that are coming in from the outside right hand edge. So always a good thing to do. If they're there, put them in. Then there's another sort of a dark area here, and that's throwing up some little touches on that outside edge, and that'll be justified soon by some I'll be putting in some shapes, branches to support those. Right, a bit more green now, a bit sort of more summery greens occasionally, just a little touch within that too. Just bring in a bit more of that. There we go. Not quite as green as that. Don't want it too green. And then we go very dark again this side to try and pick up that feeling of those leaves overhanging. Not too many this side. Bit of yellow going in too, just to give extra feeling of light as those branches head down. Now I'm going really dark again, so blue and red give me a nice dark grey purpley colour into this side. little touches. Just having I'm working to the photograph, but I'm also working to make it look right, because it's also very fine working to the photograph, but if it doesn't look right, it's not really a lot of point to it. It has to look right. Putting more brown in this lower area where these ferns are, presumably they've turned, and a little bit more blue too. That gives a shaded feel to these fern-like shapes that are standing all around the base of this lovely tree, lovely silver birch. I love silver birch. I think they're so lovely to paint, you know, particularly when you get these ferns that overhang. Try and pick that up as best as we can as we go along, and a bit more red and blue this side, give an additional fern of light. Pop some of that in there, a little bit touches of red in there, all helps to enhance the whole picture, and to give that a delicious feeling of colour. Well, that's the word I'd use, delicious feeling of colour. Leafing here from, well, shrubbery in the foreground. Using the point of the brush all the time here, but you can use the side of the brush. Quite often I do, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm releasing a lot of colour, and I'm now using the side of the brush, a bit of a solid area there, which is not helpful, but there you go. Side of the brush to help as we go into the distance. We pick up a little bit of this darker area and less sort of detailed. That's the key to it, really. I'm now sweeping that down, trying not to remove too much. It's a little bit darker here, where we've got some dark overhanging into that light area there, and a little dark there to match that up, and there's a little dark area there that is all of benefit. And then, of course, I want to pick up a bit of the edging as that goes away there. A bit of darkening to the edging all helps to give a suggestion of, see the way I'm trying to get an impression of autumn leafing by dragging across the paper. There you go. I'm going to use a slightly longer rigger this time, so it holds a bit more paint basically, and I'm going to use burnt umber with alizarin crimson. Give me a nice sort of warm sort of beech tree look, I suppose. Now there is a branch that comes out from the side there, runs up and sneaks away and supports that area there. There is another branch that comes off of that. Just got to watch we don't get too thick once we get to these areas. So they can be thick to start with, but not too strong once we get into the outside edge. And then of course there's some that hang down as well, that sweep across, and got quite a substantial one there, but I'm putting this in a little bit less, make it a little bit less important. because, and then I'm just spraying up, just if there's a little brown area there, just to give that some interest. And then I'm going to give this some interest at the base of this there, just in the foreground, nothing too fancy, two little dots and dashes and bits and bobs going on. Got to have some bits and bobs, haven't you? Bit more water going in because I want to pick up the edging of that track and gradually loosen it as it goes away. Bit more there. A bit of blue going in now because I want to kill it a little bit, because we've got branches now that are coming, whoops, from there heading off up to there. Oh yeah, that one goes up to there, so we're going to have another little small one there, and then just pull them up, because it's so important to get these branches supporting other branches in the background. Quite often it's a job to see basically sometimes, but there you go. And that just needs, I think, well, let's just put a little bit more on here. Is this possible? Yes, it is. Yeah, I like the way that lent itself. There you go. Now we're going to put the shadow work on. Now the shadow will be ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. I want a little more blue to start with because I want to just pick up the shadow side of that tree like that, and of course where the shadow sits on that one. A bit of shadow there, a bit more as we go up. There we are. And what I'm going to do, while I've got a small brush, I'm just going to soften that sunlit edge, because that will give me a bit more of a feeling of subtle shadow. That's it. Just bring that tad down there. Right, now remove a little bit of the moisture to paint in that one and that one. Then of course we have subsequent shadows from those that run into there like that, and behind that. Not a bad thing to do. There you go. Then we have the shadow that runs up there as it runs across that track. Always a good thing to do. And then I'm going to use the side of the brush, taking off plenty of moisture to give a sense of that shadow creating some darker touches within the greenery behind. Yep. Now we can then use plenty of license now for bringing the colour down. More blue, a bit more red going in this time, because I want that to show plenty of strong shadow tones. As it dries, it will dry back lighter, so I'm not getting too concerned if it looks a little on the dark side at this stage. There we go. Bit more red. Then I'm going to pull it across. Bit more blue too. Even more blue. And that's the way we produce these lovely autumn colours within a woodland setting. Get that nice deep sort of feel. A bit more blue now. I need just a little bit more of just knocking back some colour this side like that with some blue, just stroking in a couple of deeper blues there. So it was nice to introduce some blues into this. A little bit heavy, but it'll dry back. And just one or two little shapes there where the shadow comes across the path, creates that shadow work. And I think we must be getting there. Yep, there you have it. Well, there is the subject, and this is the finished painting. As you can see, you know, I've picked up all of the elements, but I've put it down in my own way. And that is what you have to do when you're painting using any medium, really. It's an expression of yourself put down onto your surface, whether it's be oils, canvas, pastels, put down onto a surface. In this case it's paper, and it needs to be placed onto the paper, and it's got to have a bit of feeling about yourself. And if you can achieve that, then you're on your way. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and if you have, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're uploading more videos very soon. Click on the notification bell and you will receive notifications when I upload my next video. Thank you all very much for watching.